Hello, my fragrance of the day is Poison by Christian Dior. Believe it or not, Poison holds a very special place in my heart, and that's because it was the second real fragrance that I ever owned. And when I say real fragrance, I mean something that wasn't for little kids because, I did have something like that when I was very small. The first real fragrance I ever had was Sweet Honesty by Avon, and then when I was a teenager, I got a bottle of Poison. And that is quite a leap to go from Sweet Honesty to Poison, but that really happened. So when I was a teenage girl, no more than 15 or 16 years old at the most, I bought myself a bottle of Poison with what little money that I had, my own money. And I don't know why it was so important to me at the time. I could have saved my money or I could have spent it on something else, but I really wanted a bottle of Poison. And I think it has to do with the advertising and the perfume strips that it used to have in the magazines a long time ago. I thought that it smelled really good. And, I was just seduced by the advertising. I just thought that it was just so sophisticated, beautiful, kind of dark, mysterious, a little bit risque. And just something that was for grown-ups. And when you're 15, 16 years old, you're still a kid, but you're on the verge of adulthood, of becoming an adult. So that's why I wanted Poison, and that's why I bought myself a bottle. And my mother was not really thrilled with that. She thought that it was too mature for a young girl, and it probably was. But, I didn't wear it every day. Even back then, I understood that it was something that was for evening use or special occasions. It wasn't for everyday wear. So, Poison was first launched in 1985. This fragrance is a little over 40 years old. And it's described as being an Asian floral. And it's a little bit dark, a little bit spicy. That's the vibe that it's supposed to give off, mysterious. And it was a polarizing fragrance even back then. And it still is. I do read reviews online. Some people love it. Some people hate it. Whenever I wore Poison, some people were surprised that a young girl would wear it. And also, not everyone liked it. It was very strong, and I'm sure it still is. And back then, I had a tendency to overspray. Like if I sprayed it on myself, if I couldn't smell it, a couple hours later, I would try to touch it up, and not realizing that even though I couldn't smell it anymore, other people could. So sometimes I wore it, it was probably a little overpowering, too strong. And sometimes that invited criticism from other people. So it took me a little time to go through it. And when I finally did finish that bottle, I never repurchased Poison again. By that time, I was tired of it and I was ready to move on to other fragrances. So I recently had the chance to revisit Poison again. And I have to tell you, it's not the way that I remember it. I mean, it does smell similar. It just smells more synthetic now. And that's not surprising because a lot of fragrances go through reformulations, especially fragrances that have been around for a long time. And as I mentioned, Poison has been around for a little over 40 years. So that's not surprising. But it smells so synthetic to my nose, and I don't remember it smelling that way when I was younger. So Poison is not something that I will ever repurchase again. It's not something that I will ever wear again. Maybe it smelled better long ago. I thought it smelled great back then. But nowadays, you couldn't pay me to wear this. Well, maybe you could pay me to wear it, but it's not something that I would choose to wear. Now, I read online reviews, and I know that some people still love it. They still buy it. And some younger people are just discovering it, and maybe they really like it. Like I said, it's a polarizing fragrance. Some people absolutely hate it. It was fun to revisit it because, like I said, it holds a special place in my heart, but never again. I'll never wear it again. And if you love Poison and I've offended you by what I've said about it, I'm sorry, but I'm giving my honest opinion. I'm here for entertainment, to give my opinion on things like fragrances, and I'm being honest.